Rain hammered the crystal balcony of the Sky Court as alarms shook the whole palace. Red lights flashed through the transparent walls, turning every corner into a world of trembling shadows. Soldiers rushed past in silver armor, shouting orders, their boots echoing against the polished stone floor. Princess Lyra stood alone at the balcony rail, gripping it with shaking hands. Her voice was barely a whisper. "Please don't let them find him." A thunderous boom rolled through the air. The protective barrier around the palace flickered like a dying flame. Outside, through the sheets of rain, dark shapes moved in the clouds, enemy raiders on winged machines circling the highest towers. The attack had begun. Lyra didn't cry. She never cried. She had trained herself to stay quiet, to stay composed, to stay invisible. It was how a shy princess survived in a kingdom of fierce warriors. But tonight, her heart refused to stay silent. Because somewhere in the Eastern Hall, somewhere among the smoke and the falling debris, a human was still out there. Max, the outsider, the one no one trusted, the one she had spoken to only in stolen moments, always with her eyes lowered, too shy to say what she really felt. Footsteps stopped behind her. "Princess, you shouldn't be here." It was Captain, tall, stern, and exhausted, sweat mixed with rain on his forehead as he bowed. "Our forces are holding the northern gate, but the raiders broke through the east side. We are evacuating the nobles now." Lyra swallowed. The human, Max, did he escape with them? Hesitated. That hesitation stabbed deeper than any blade. "Princess," he refused to leave. He stayed to help the healers. The east wing collapsed soon after. Lyra's breath caught, her chest tightened painfully. Her fingers trembled so hard, she nearly dropped the glowing crystal she used to control the balcony shield. She didn't even realize was speaking again, until his hand gently touched her arm. "Princess Lyra, we must go." But she shook her head. "No, I have to find him." Her voice was soft yet steady, more determined than he had ever heard it. Blinked, Lyra had never disobeyed royal command, never raised her voice, never asked for anything for herself. The palace lights flickered again. A low rumble followed far below their feet. Something big had hit the lower towers. Clenched his jaw. "I understand your concern, Princess, truly, but it is unsafe." "He is alone," she whispered. "And he is human. He doesn't know our hallways. He doesn't know where to run. If I don't reach him, he'll die." For a moment saw it, fear, deep fear, but also something more, something she had been hiding for a long time. So that was it. The shy princess cared for the human. He exhaled slowly. "I will send a squad." "No," she said, "I'm going." Her tone was soft, but the decision was firm. A gentle voice carrying a heavy heart stepped back in surprise as she lifted the crystal. It glowed brighter, responding to her heartbeat, and the balcony shield slid open with a hiss of cold night air. Wind lashed her hair across her face. Rain soaked her ceremonial dress, but she stood there, unmoving, staring into the storm-filled sky like it was the only path that mattered. Finally nodded. "At least let me come with you." "Thank you," she whispered. They moved fast through the palace corridors. Smoke curled under the high ceilings. Fallen lanterns flickered weakly. Servants rushed past carrying injured guards. The distant hum of the palace core sounded weaker than usual, like a giant breathing its last breaths. Lyra kept her eyes forward. Her thoughts raced with every step. She remembered Max's smile when he first arrived. His awkward bow. His gentle laugh when she couldn't look him in the eyes for more than a second. His hands glowing with soft human warmth when he helped the healers treat the sick. He looked fragile at first, but something about him felt strong in a way her people didn't understand. A crash shook dust from the ceiling, shielded her as a section of wall collapsed behind them. "Princess, stay close." They turned into the eastern hall. Flames painted the walls orange. Broken glass littered the floor. A deep fog of smoke blurred everything into moving shadows. "Max," Lyra called out, her voice breaking for the first time. No answer. Her heart pounded harder. Faster. She stepped over a fallen beam. Then she saw it. A hand. Human. Reaching weakly from under the rubble. Her breath vanished. Her world stopped. Help me." And for the first time in her life, the shy princess dropped to her knees without caring who watched. Because she had finally found him. Heaved the fallen beam aside, muscles straining beneath his armor. Smoke rolled from the broken ceiling vents, filling the corridor with a harsh, metallic taste. Sparks snapped from damaged power lines, lighting the hall in brief flashes. Lyra didn't wait for the dust to settle. She crawled forward, hands scraping over shattered glass as she reached for the human hand sticking out from the rubble. "Max, Max, can you hear me?" Her voice shook, not with fear of the raiders, not with fear of the collapsing palace, but with fear of losing him before she ever spoke the words trapped in her heart. The rubble shifted. A weak groan answered her. Dropped to his knees beside her. "Princess, stand back, let me clear it." "No," she shook her head, already pushing pieces of stone aside with trembling fingers. "He's alive, that's enough. We're getting him out." Together, they lifted the larger fragments. Dust coated her hair and clothes, covering the silver embroidery of her gown. She didn't care. After a final push, Max's face emerged, pale, sweaty dirt streaking his cheek. His chest rose unevenly, breath shallow but steady. His eyes fluttered open. When he saw her, he managed a faint smile. "Hey, Princess, didn't think you'd run into a burning building for me." Lyra's breath escaped in a gasp that was almost a sob. I didn't run, I walked fast." Her ears flushed with embarrassment the moment she said it. Even half buried under rubble, Max gave a soft laugh that made her heart twist. Inspected him quickly. "His leg is pinned and possibly broken, but he's conscious, that's good." Max blinked slowly. "Captain, that tower collapse was no joke." Lyra held his hand. "Why were you still here? You should fled." Max looked at her, eyes gentle, voice quiet. "There were injured healers. I couldn't just leave them." Her chest tightened. Humans weren't known for magical ability, not like her people. But Max had carried water, moved debris, held the frightened hands of those who couldn't walk. Simple things. Kind things. Things almost no noble in her kingdom bothered to do. Wedged his sword under the last slab of stone. "Princess, help me lift, on 3, 1, 2. A sharp vibration shook the hall before he could say 3. The lights flickered. Then the floor trembled. "Cursed, the raiders are breaching the lower vaults." Lyra's pulse spiked. The vaults where the palace core was kept. If the raiders reached the core, the whole floating kingdom would lose power. She forced herself to focus. "Max first, we save him first." Nodded without argument. Together, they lifted the slab. Max groaned as his legs slid free. The moment the weight lifted, Lyra slid her arm under his shoulders. "Max, look at me, stay awake." He tried, his eyelids drooped. "You came for me," he whispered, almost like he couldn't believe it. "I had to." Her voice cracked. That was the closest she had ever come to confessing how she felt. Slung Max over his shoulder as gently as he could. "We need to reach the inner court. Healers gather there during attacks." Lyra stayed beside them, one hand on Max's arm as if afraid he'd vanish if she let go. As they moved through the smoke-filled halls, the world revealed itself in fragments. A guard limping but refusing medical help so he could shield 2 crying children. Servants carrying a sacred tapestry out of harm's way, even during a raid. A young noble clutching a glowing staff that flickered with failing magic. An old scholar sitting on the floor beside broken scrolls, whispering prayers for the kingdom's ancestors. The palace wasn't just stone and crystal. It was a living place. And tonight it bled. Max noticed it too, even through the haze of pain. Your people, they're strong, he murmured. Lyra swallowed. They try. A sudden roar echoed down the corridor. Raised his sword. The raiders there inside the west wing. Lyra froze. That wing led straight to the inner court. If the raiders got there first, the healers, peaceful, unarmed, would be trapped. Max grabbed her wrist weakly. Lyra, go help them. His voice was faint but firm. She knelt beside him. I'm not leaving you. You're not, he whispered. Just protect them, please. Looked between them, eyes sharp, calculating. He saw something she didn't say. Something Max didn't say. But it lived between them anyway. He nodded. Princess, go, I'll get him to safety. Lyra hesitated only 1 second. Then she stood, heart pounding, fear mixing with something fierce and painful. Max, she whispered, stay alive, I'm coming back. His eyes softened. I know. And with that, the shy princess ran into the burning halls, dress torn, hair wild, voice steady. No longer invisible. No longer silent. She ran because someone finally saw her heart. Lyra's boots splashed in the water pooling on the marble floors. Smoke clung to her hair, her dress clinging in wet, dark folds. Every corridor looked the same in the dim red glow of the emergency lights. Every shadow seemed to whisper the enemy's approach. But she kept moving. Through the ruins of her palace, she ran toward the inner court. Her heart pounded in rhythm with the distant alarms. Every beat reminded her Max was alive, he had trusted her, and she had promised him she'd return. The West Wing was worse than she imagined. Flames licked the walls, setting tapestries alight. Soldiers scrambled to form a defensive line, but even their shields couldn't hold back the raiders' flying machines. Sparks rained down from the broken ceiling vents. Smoke thickened until breathing became a chore. Princess. A servant stumbled toward her, clutching a small bundle of glowing herbs. Her name sounded fragile over the roar of destruction. What is it? Lyra asked, kneeling to take the bundle. The inner court, the healers, some are trapped under debris. I tried to carry them out, but... The servant's voice broke, choking on smoke and fear. Lyra's stomach twisted. Where exactly? The servant pointed to a corridor blocked by collapsed arches. Lyra's chest tightened. This was worse than the East Wing collapse where Max had been trapped. Now more lives depended on her, lives she couldn't leave. Her hands went to the crystal at her waist. It pulsed gently, sensing her heartbeat. She whispered the activation word, and a soft blue barrier shimmered around her, cutting through the smoke and shielding her from the heat. She stepped forward, each footfall careful but urgent. As she lifted the first beam, a voice called from behind her. Princess, wait. It was running through the flames. His armor scratched from falling debris, his face streaked with soot. You can't do this alone, he shouted. It's too dangerous. Lyra looked at him, eyes blazing. I'm not alone, she said, her gaze softened. I have to, and Max, he trusts me. Hesitated, something unspoken passed between them. The captain, ever strict, ever disciplined, knew that the princess's determination was unshakable. And he also knew she wasn't speaking only for Max. Her heart, he saw the courage she hid behind shyness, the quiet strength she never let anyone witness. He gave a small, resigned nod. Then I'll cover you. Together they cleared the debris, revealing 3 injured healers pinned beneath stones. One of them, a young woman named, groaned weakly. Her leg was bent at an unnatural angle. The others were bruised but conscious. Lyra's hands trembled slightly as she touched them, whispering reassurances. You're safe now, we'll get you out. Lifted the first slab, Lyra aiding with careful precision. The healers coughed, dust falling from their hair, eyes wide with relief and disbelief. You came, whispered to Lyra. Her voice was weak, but her gratitude shone bright. You came for us. Lyra swallowed hard, her chest ached. I promised him, she said softly. I'll protect everyone I can. Shot her a sharp look, but said nothing. She didn't need to explain further. They began guiding the healers toward the main hall. Each step was perilous. The floor shook beneath them as distant explosions rocked the West Wing. Sparks ignited nearby curtains. The sound of winged raiders' engines echoed through the hall. As they rounded a corner, a young boy stumbled into Lyra's path. His small frame shook, eyes wide with terror. He clutched a toy, a tiny crystal dragon glowing faintly. "Where's your family?" Lyra asked gently. "They downstairs," he whispered, voice cracking. "Mom, Dad, the lava room." Her heart sank. The palace had lava chambers for energy, a delicate network her people had learned to navigate for centuries. If the boy's parents were trapped there, time was running out. Lyra bent down, placing a comforting hand on his shoulder. "We'll find them. Stay with me, okay?" He nodded, trembling. As they moved on, Lyra felt a strange warmth in her chest. She had faced battles before, learned diplomacy, attended countless royal ceremonies, but nothing had felt as alive as this moment. Protecting those who couldn't protect themselves. Fighting, not for glory, not for status, but for the lives of others. And somewhere far behind her, Max waited. The memory of his weak, trusting smile drove her forward. She didn't know how she'd carry him if he was hurt again, but she would. She had too. A crash echoed through the corridor, a chandelier torn from the ceiling. Threw himself and Lyra aside, debris shattering the floor around them. Lyra's hand remained clutching the boy, the pulse of her crystal glowing brighter as if acknowledging the danger. When the smoke cleared, she pushed herself upright, chest heaving. "We keep moving," she said. "No one left behind, not today." And for the first time, the shy princess realized something terrifying and beautiful. She could no longer hide her feelings. She could no longer stay quiet. Because to protect others, she had to show courage. And to protect the one human who had touched her heart, she had to let him see it too. The inner court shimmered faintly ahead, its protective shields flickering from the raiders' attacks. Lyra's heart leapt. She could hear the healers' voices, faint cries for help that made her run faster despite the smoke and falling debris. Carried the young boy while Lyra led the injured healers, her hands glowing faintly with the pulse of the crystal at her waist. It responded to her emotions, a silent reminder of the courage she was only beginning to feel. But a deafening crash stopped her in her tracks. The floor beneath the east corridor had cracked. Lava from the palace's lower chambers seared through the marble like liquid fire. A guard screamed as molten streams cut off a section of their path. Lyra froze, vision blurring, her chest heaved. Max had been trapped in the east wing once. Could he be here again? "Princess," shouted, "we need another way." She shook her head. "I have to check if Max," her voice faltered. Fear gripped her chest. She'd never felt this helpless before. With one glance at the healers, she pressed forward, ignoring the heat and smoke. Every step carried her closer to the memory of him lying under the rubble, the way his hand had weakly reached for hers, trusting her. That trust burned in her heart. The corridor narrowed. Flames licked the walls. A section of ceiling groaned ominously. Lyra pressed her palms against the crystal, feeling it hum in resonance with her heartbeat. Then she saw him. Max. Pinned under a fallen metal beam, blood streaked his forehead, clothes torn, chest rising shallowly. His eyes opened weakly, searching, blinking in disbelief as he saw her. "Princess," he whispered. Her breath caught, she dropped to her knees beside him. "I'm Max, I'm here, I'll get you out, I promise." He tried to smile, a faint curve of his lips, but pain twisted his features. "I thought you'd never," she said, brushing sweat-damp hair from his face. "No more thinking, just stay with me." Joined her, lifting the beam with all his strength. Sparks flew as it scraped against the floor. Lyra felt Max shiver as the weight lifted. She slipped her arm under his shoulders, trying to lift him herself. His eyes met hers, and for a moment the world shrank to that one connection. No raiders, no flames, no broken palace, just the human who had touched her heart, trusting her completely. "You're strong," Max whispered, voice trembling. Lyra smiled through tears. "You made me strong, you just didn't know it yet." Finally stepped back. "Careful, Princess, the lava." "Not leaving him," she said firmly, ignoring the heat radiating from the cracks below. With support, she dragged Max down a side corridor toward a secondary stairwell. The palace groaned and shuddered around them. Each step threatened to crumble beneath their weight. Suddenly, a raider's winged machine appeared in the broken ceiling above, firing a jet of plasma toward them. Shoved Lyra aside just in time. The plasma struck the wall, sending fragments flying, sparks dancing dangerously close to her hair. Max groaned, pain flashing across his face. Lyra's heart stuttered. Her hands glowed as she instinctively extended the shield, deflecting the next blast. The energy crackled, drawing from her inner strength, her courage, her fear, her love for this fragile human who had shown her so much. "Princess," Max coughed, "your powers." She didn't answer. Words couldn't carry what she felt. Instead, she pulled him closer, letting the crystal shield absorb the heat, guiding them both down the corridor. The stairwell opened into a small chamber with intact walls. Set Max down gently, checking his injuries. "He's stable for now," said, voice tight with concern. "But we need to move him to the inner court healers immediately." Lyra's gaze lingered on Max. His eyes met hers and she saw something new, awe, trust, and maybe relief. Relief that she had come for him, relief that someone finally saw her heart. "I will get you there," she whispered. "I swear." Max managed a faint nod, his hand brushing against hers. A spark of warmth, fragile and electric, passed between them. She realized then that she could no longer hide the feelings she had buried for so long. But before she could speak further, a low rumble shook the floor. The raiders were advancing again. The inner court was no longer safe. Lyra rose, strength surging through her like wildfire. She would protect him. She would protect everyone. And maybe she would finally let herself feel what her heart had been whispering for so long. She turned to, "We move now together, no one left behind." And with that, the shy princess stepped fully into courage, her crystal glowing brighter than ever, lighting the way through fire, smoke, and the chaos of war. The inner court smelled of wet stone, healing herbs, and faint magic. Candles flickered in crystal sconces, their glow reflecting in the polished floors. Lyra stepped through the threshold, carrying Max carefully in her arms. The healers rushed forward, their hands gentle, calm, efficient. "Lay him here," a healer whispered, guiding her to a soft mat. Lyra knelt beside Max as the healers examined his injuries. Cuts and bruises covered his arms and torso, his leg was badly twisted. They murmured spells, glowing light bathing his body, easing pain and accelerating recovery. Max groaned softly. "You came." "I told you," Lyra said softly, brushing a damp lock of hair from his forehead. "I promised." Her voice trembled, not from fear, but from the weight of what she felt. His eyes met hers, half-lidded, weary. I didn't think anyone would care enough." Lyra's throat tightened. The words she had never said before rose unbidden. "I care," she whispered, "more than you know." For a moment the chaos outside faded. Smoke and fire seemed distant. All that mattered was him, lying there, vulnerable, trusting her. The shy princess, who had hidden behind protocol and silence, realized she could no longer hide. A healer gently placed a hand on Lyra's shoulder. "Princess, he's stable. You can rest for a moment." She nodded, reluctant. Standing up, she paced the inner court, eyes flicking to Max. He watched her, chest rising slowly, breathing easier. A small smile tugged at his lips despite the pain. "You're really brave," he murmured. Lyra's cheeks flushed. "I'm not brave, I'm just—" She paused, struggling with words. "I can't stand the thought of losing someone who trusts me." He looked at her in quiet awe. "Humans, we're not supposed to mean much to aliens like you." She blinked, surprised. "I don't care about that." He gave her a weak laugh. "You really care." Her heart pounded. She wanted to reach for him, to hold him close, but fear gripped her. What if she crossed a line? What if she wasn't allowed? And yet, the thought of leaving him now made her stomach twist. The sound of footsteps echoed from the corridor. Soldiers entered with news. "Princess, the raiders are regrouping," said, bowing slightly. "They haven't breached the inner court yet, but reinforcements are on the way." Lyra's hands clenched into fists, her eyes flicked to Max. "Then we wait together." Max reached out weakly, his fingers brushed hers. "You stayed," he whispered. "I promised," she said again. And this time she meant more than saving him. She meant everything that trembled in her heart. The healers continued their work, and the inner court became a bubble of calm amidst the storm. Lyra helped where she could, offering water, steadying trembling hands, whispering encouragement. Through it all, she stole glances at Max. His eyes followed her occasionally, a mixture of gratitude, curiosity, and something softer, something new that made her pulse quicken. "You're different," Max said after a moment of silence. "From anyone I've ever met, you see people, even in chaos, even when everyone else hides." Lyra looked down, embarrassed, but a small smile touched her lips. I've always noticed." He gave her a faint, tired smile. "I think that's why I trust you more than anyone." Her breath caught. Every word he spoke seemed to untangle the knots in her chest, exposing feelings she had buried under shyness and tradition for so long. And yet the palace still shook around them. Distant roars, explosions, and the crackle of fire reminded her that safety was temporary. She rose, brushing herself off, resolve solidifying. "We'll face them together. Everyone, including you, will make it through this." Max's hand twitched, reaching for hers again. She didn't pull away. "You really mean that?" he asked softly. Her heart pounded in her ears. "Yes," she whispered, "more than you can imagine." For a heartbeat, the world outside ceased to matter. There was only the inner court, the soft glow of healing light, and two hearts beginning to understand one another. And as the palace trembled again, Lyra realized that she didn't have to hide her feelings anymore. Not from Max, not from herself. Because for the first time, the shy princess understood something vital. Courage wasn't just saving people from fire and chaos. Courage was letting someone see the heart you'd always hidden. And she was ready. The inner court trembled again, the shields flickering violently as distant explosions shook the walls. The raiders were relentless. Lyra's heart pounded in her chest as she helped the healers move injured nobles and servants to safer corners. Every second felt like an eternity. Max lay on a cushioned mat, his breaths uneven. He tried to sit up as Lyra adjusted a blanket over his shoulders. "Princess," he whispered, his voice hoarse, "you shouldn't be out here. You're royalty." Her hands froze for a heartbeat, brushing his hair back from his sweat-damp forehead. "I promised you, Max," she said softly. "I'm not leaving anyone behind, especially you." He tried to reach for her, fingers trembling. "You care too much even for me." Lyra's chest ached. She wanted to tell him everything, how she had always watched him, how his kindness had pierced her shy heart, but words felt too fragile. Instead, she pressed his hand lightly. "I do," she whispered, "and I'm not ashamed of it." Before he could respond, the floor beneath the northern wing groaned. A sudden tremor sent shards of glass raining down. Soldiers shouted, rushing to form a barricade. "Princess," called, rushing over. "They're breaking through the secondary gates. If the inner court falls, the palace core will be compromised." Lyra's hands clenched. She looked at Max. "Stay here," she said firmly. "I won't let them touch you." Max tried to argue but could only cough, too weak to resist. "You don't have to." "I do," she interrupted, voice resolute. "I promised." With her crystal pulsing bright, Lyra ran toward the northern corridor. Sparks flew as plasma blasts seared the walls. The raiders' machines swooped overhead, scanning for weaknesses. Joined her, sword drawn, moving with practiced precision. "Princess, the shields, use them. I'll cover your flank." She nodded, gripping her crystal tightly. The glow expanded around her hands, forming a shimmering barrier that deflected the next wave of plasma. Heat licked her face, but she stood firm. Through the smoke and sparks, she saw the raiders, tall, angular, clad in black armor unlike anything she had ever seen. They moved with deadly precision, scanning for life. She raised her voice. "Stop, leave now." A moment of hesitation. Then one raider fired a weapon that struck the floor near her feet, sending her stumbling back. Grabbed her arm. "Princess, you can't hold them all," he shouted. Her pulse surged. Fear mingled with a strange, fierce determination. She thought of Max lying weakly in the inner court, the way he had trusted her with his life, even when she was shy and uncertain. Her chest heaved. I won't let them take him, not anyone under my protection. A ripple of energy burst from her crystal, knocking two raiders off their feet. Sparks flew, the shield expanding, powerful and radiant, fueled not just by magic, but by the intensity of her heart. One raider staggered, then leveled a blade at her. Lunged, parrying it with a roar. Lyra's crystal flared, the light bright enough to make the shadows of the palace dance violently. For a moment time seemed suspended. Smoke and sparks, heat and chaos, all faded against the force of her resolve. She realized then, she was no longer the shy princess who hid behind silence. She had stepped into something far greater: love, courage, and the unshakable desire to protect those who could not protect themselves. Shouted, knocking a raider back. "Princess, fall back, we can't hold them forever." She hesitated. Her instinct screamed to fight, to stay, to protect. But she remembered Max's weak, trusting eyes. She remembered the injured healers, the young boy, the palace that had sheltered her people for generations. "Right," she whispered, "not forever, but long enough." She drew a deep breath, focusing the crystal's glow, forming a protective corridor toward the inner court. Each step was deliberate, controlled, fierce. She would buy time, she would hold them off, and Max would live. For him, for everyone. For the first time, the shy princess understood that courage and love were not separate. They were the same. And as the raiders surged forward, she faced them with her heart wide open, unafraid, unstoppable. The inner court glowed in a tense stillness, a fragile island of safety amidst the roaring chaos. Smoke twisted through the vaulted ceilings like dark serpents, and the distant crash of the palace walls trembling under the raiders' assault rattled Lyra's chest. Max lay on a healing mat, now more conscious, his bruised face pale but steadier. He watched Lyra as she moved from healer to healer, hands glowing softly, energy shielding the wounded from the worst of the collapsing palace. "Princess," he whispered. She stopped, kneeling beside him. "Max!" Her voice was soft but carried every ounce of relief, fear, and love she had kept hidden. "You saved me again," he said, struggling to sit up. "I don't think I could ever repay you." Her hands brushed his cheek, fingertips trembling. "You don't have to," she whispered. I just needed you to be safe. That's enough for me." For a long moment they looked at each other, not as princess and outsider, not as human and alien, but as two hearts that had survived fire and chaos, trust and fear, hope and despair together. The sound of approaching footsteps pulled her from the quiet. Returned, armor scratched, face streaked with soot and exhaustion. Behind him, palace soldiers and a few remaining healers, keeping the raiders at bay. "The northern gate is secure," he reported. "The reinforcements have arrived, the palace core is safe for now, but Princess," his eyes softened as they flicked to Lyra and Max, "you were incredible out there." Lyra's hands still rested on Max's arms, her shoulders heavy with fatigue yet firm with purpose. "I did what I had to do," she said quietly, but the tremor in her voice betrayed her emotions. Max reached for her hand, weak but determined. "You did more than that," he whispered. "You showed me everything, your courage, your heart." Her chest tightened. She had never heard words like that directed at her before. The shy, quiet part of her, the part that had always hidden behind walls of propriety, felt herself unraveling in the safest, most terrifying way. "You see me?" she asked, voice barely audible. "I do," he said, smiling faintly. "I see all of you, even the parts you think no one ever notices." Her eyes shimmered. Tears slipped down her cheeks, not from fear or sorrow, but from relief and wonder. For the first time, someone had truly seen her. Her feelings were no longer hidden, no longer confined to a whispered thought in her mind. Lyra's hand moved to his face, brushing away a streak of dirt mixed with sweat. I've always," she hesitated, heart pounding, the words finally spilling free. "I've always cared about you, more than I should perhaps, but I can't hide it anymore." Max's lips curved into a gentle, tired smile. "I've always noticed, and I've felt it too, even when I didn't think someone like me could matter to someone like you." Her breath caught. She reached for him, leaning closer. Their foreheads touched softly, a delicate connection amidst the chaos of the burning palace. You matter, she whispered. And you, he replied, more than you know. For a heartbeat, the palace, the raiders, the flames, the danger, didn't exist. There was only them. Only the human who had inspired her courage and the shy alien princess who had shown him the warmth of a heart he had never expected to find. The alarms continued, the distant shouts of soldiers and healers still echoing, but inside the inner court, a quiet moment of triumph bloomed. Watched from a few steps away, a small smile tugging at his lips. He had seen many battles, many acts of bravery, but this was different. Not a fight for power, not a clash of armies, but a human and a princess, trusting each other, seeing each other, and surviving together. Lyra finally pulled back slightly, resting her forehead against Max's for one last quiet moment. "We survived," she whispered, "and I think we can face anything now." Max squeezed her hand weakly, smiling despite his pain. "Together." "Yes," she agreed, "together." The inner court glowed softly, shields holding firm. The palace trembled less. Outside, reinforcements repelled the raiders. And in that quiet aftermath, two hearts that had been hidden, shy, and uncertain now beat openly, bravely, and fully, each drawing strength from the other. For Lyra, the shy alien princess, the battle had not only saved lives, it had revealed her heart. And for Max, the human who had seen it, that heart was the only place he wanted to belong. Amidst fire, chaos, and shattered walls, love and courage had won.